Hello everyone, this is Emil Willumsen, and this video is a series where I'll break down this piece created in Unity, and it's called Chromatic Vanguard. This particular video I'll be going over through the characters. I'll go through the shader, a custom shader I've created for them. I'll go through creating the back pieces you see here, and attaching the weapons onto their hands so it follows them as they animate. I'll go through freezing a pose on an imported animation, and yeah, that's it. So let's get started with the first piece. So everyone probably know Mixamo, but I'll just show the character which I've imported from Mixamo. So this is the archer, which we've seen here. She looks quite different in my scene, both because of the rendering, but also the shader. It's pretty cool to have these available for free for commercial use, and they can be translated into something quite different. So both the character and the animation is from Mixamo, and I've just frozen her in time at a particular frame of that animation. And then I've added some custom assets like these weapons, and just manually place them in her hand just to kind of fit. So they do glitch if you get really close, but it's not meant to get that close anyway. And as you can see here in the left, I made a prefab of her model, and then I dived into the hierarchy and imported the model, which I also made into a prefab, and placed it right on her right hand, and reset these transforms. And with that done, it'll always stay inside the prefab, and as she animates, the weapons will follow correctly. And the same for this guy with the X. It's pretty simple to add objects like that to Mixamo characters, and did the same stuff for these kind of reflective spheres. Just make them into a prefab and tie them to the specific body part where you want them to be. That works pretty well. So that's the weapons and the general characters. So these back pieces they are a custom model, and I created them in Blender. I'll just quickly show you how you might do something similar. So if you open Blender here, you can see from scratch. You will have to go into Edit, Preferences, and go to Add-ons and look for the one called Sapling Tree Gen. And as soon as that is ticked on, you can go to Add, Curve, and you'll find it here. That's pretty much a tree generator, which assumingly like not a lot of people know. And there's a lot of different properties that you can customize to have different kind of looking trees, or like I do, use it to be less of a standard tree and more like an abstract thing. So I made a really low tree with a lot of branches. And you can go to leaves and show leaves and add whatever kind of, if it should be hexagonal or rectangular, and then add your own material to it. One thing to notice here is that as soon as you click away from this little window, you can't really go back, so it's destructive in that sense. What you can do instead is to put your settings in and then save it as a preset. Then should you lose your settings, you can quickly go back and continue on that preset. So that's just a quick tip on how to create this kind of stuff, and that's the same I did here with these two. And instead of the standard leaf, I created my own shader here in Shader Graph, which we can look into now. So I'll just open here the Shader Graph window. So this is a standard lit shader, but I wanted to have a kind of a texture that it shouldn't be leaves per se, but I want the same kind of leaf texture to show through, and then blend it with a gradient of my choice. So I'll just dive into each section here. So at first we have this kind of sample textures, which I desaturated because I didn't want the green color to multiply with my gradient, so I desaturated it. And I added this kind of blend node because I wanted it to really be kind of glowing and to really pop. So I wanted so what I did was to blend it with a white color and put it on overlay mode. And that's what really makes these back pieces and also the characters shader pop, this kind of overlay brightness. And this is blended together with my gradient down here. So what this does is to take the position of the object and spit this gradient out on all the leaves and not just each one separately. Sadly, in Unity you can't currently expose the gradient, so I can't really show it out here, and but I can show in a few minutes later on the characters how it actually works. So this is a Voronoi texture blended together with a gradient, which makes me control how these colors act on the back piece. Yeah, so this is blended together with the leaf texture. And the final part is the normals, which is just a basic normal map, and an alpha channel, so you can control this kind of textures in a leaf if they should be transparent or not. I ended up actually making them pretty opaque, but I have the option available to cut out stuff if I want to. And the same shader has been repurposed for the characters. So I'll just quickly show you how the settings are exposed here in the inspector and what each of them does. So if we go here to the archer, or the barbarian instead here, you can see that the brightness value is the overlay of the white color inside shader graph that we looked at just before. So if I change this to 1000 for instance, you can see that here it turns really glowing, which is a cool effect. But for this particular piece I wanted it to be more subtle. But it's a nice way to keep the original textures from the Mixamo characters and just spice them up with your own properties, and for this one to be like really abstract and glowing. One other important setting here is the noise scale. So as you can see, as I increase this, it turns into these smaller spots like this. But again, with 0.23, it's more subtle, where it's glowing in one part and darker in the other one. And of course, color is easy to change like this. So it's just a way to add a gradient scale to your character's existing textures. So they have this kind of multiplying setup in shader graph. So the final part I want to quickly introduce is freezing your characters on a specific pose. I'm not sure I entirely understand the process because I wasn't really able to find the answer anywhere online, but I'll go through my what I did, and somehow I succeeded with one of the characters while the other one isn't really stuck on one frame. So the first step is to find your character, and you can see when you import a character, you have this kind of settings: the model, the rig, but also the animation tab. So you can, instead of having it going from 0 to the final frame, you can limit it to one part. Say start on, for this instance, 15 and end on 25. So it's just, as you can see here in the preview, it's just cutting the animation down to one part instead of the whole animation. So that's the first part. The second part is going to your timeline. This is my master timeline, and this is my nested timeline, and add an animation clip. And again, here you can say it to go in on just a specific part of the animation and tell it to hold, and when it's done. And the same one goes for the other character. The final part of the puzzle is nesting this into a master timeline, which you reduce to being just one frame. This means that whenever you click play, the character will actually not move, because you've told the master timeline to be on a control track and just be on one frame. So I do want to add animations to this piece at a later stage, but this is just still images. It's nice to have the characters be stuck on like frozen in the place when you work in the editor, and not having to rely on going into play mode or into game view. So I hope that these tips gave you an idea of how I achieved this look for the characters and for the back pieces. And yeah, hopefully it was easy enough to follow, and you can try to reproduce it for the same kind of gradient glow results. So yeah, thank you for following this short video.